Okay, so this is our next plan, and in the first plan, I have showed you how we will make sure that they know and relate what is space and area has to do with each other. Now, this lesson will be more specific how we can measure, right? For example, we are saying which one does not belong, so they can answer and they can justify, okay, why any one of these figures do not belong with each other. For example, they can select A and they could say that it does not have any blue region, so it could be the same way. So this is just the start of the lesson or just the start of the course, so student can easily answer. Okay, the next, take a handful of square tiles, create a shape from the tiles. As a group, order the shape from the smallest to largest. So we will provide them some square tiles, and they can use those square, some of the square tiles. For this, the idea is they can click on any of the button, and some of the squares randomly will be provided to students, and they were just to create any of the shape they can create using the provided squares. And then this last part will be in the next slide or in the next assignment, you next task you may say. So in the first task they will get some squares and they have to create any of the figure. Then they will create any three figures you may say, and then in the next task they will be asked to arrange all of the shapes they have made from smallest to greatest, so that they can drag and they can put them in any specific order that is required. Okay, the next we have, then we will ask after they are done with this short activity, we will ask how did you order the shapes from smallest to greatest, like which attribute of the shape did you compare. Did you compare the area, did you compare the length, did you compare the width, what did you compare? Okay, so they can answer it is common to use squares like the square tiles we used in the activity to determine each tile has one square unit of area. So after their answer of this question, this will be like a guidance over voice note, like this is a common method as you saw it in the video I showed to you, like this is how we measure area. And if we count the number of tiles that make up a shape, we can find the area of the shape. For example, if a shape is covered by 12 square tiles, it has an area of 12 square units. So this is the information that will be given to students, and then they will proceed. Now that we know that we can count squares to square tiles to find area, we can think about covering shapes with tiles to find the area. We call this tiling. Some of these are not shapes that have names from like squares or triangles. Because of this, we can call them figures. As we work with them in this activity, this word will be helpful in describing other shapes that we don't have names for. So here we have introduced what they are going to do. Like for example, they are saying which word would you use if there is no square, triangle or rectangle, so you will use figures instead. So these are guidance. And then they will have this activity. It will be a virtual activity. Use square tiles to find the area of each figure. Record your answers here. So I let me show you here. Okay, so these sort of figures will be appeared on their screen, and they will have some bag of very interesting bag of something, squares that they can pick and they can fill inside in these shapes, these figures. And then they will write, use the tiles to find the area. So and they will write the areas of all of these figures. So you can see these are the figures that you have to provide them, right? Okay, either after they are done with filling those figures, you can show them these so that they can write answers, or you can do it along. For example, there is a figure here that they can fill, and on the right side they are having this statement where they have to write the area in square units. So they can do it along. For example, there is a square or anything, and they're taking square tiles and they are filling that square or rectangle, and then they are writing their answer and then they are submitting it. So it will be like six figures or there could be more. Then the next, how did you tile the each square, each figure? How did you determine the area? You can ask these sort of questions. So and for third grade student, I think they may struggle writing. So we can provide these sample answers and they can pick the one that they think is right. Why are it is not important to leave why was it important not to leave any gaps as you tiled your figure. So we can also write, okay, why we cannot leave any space while we are tiling. So they can answer this after doing the activity I have just showed to you. Okay, so this is the lesson ends, and today we can give the lesson summary after these short activities, and then we have a question that they can answer like this. I was exactly asking like this. When they are doing this activity, we can use the same template, like use square tiles to find the area of the figure. So here's a figure. You will provide them square tiles that they will use to fill this figure, and then they can answer these two blanks. So this will be done, and the lesson will be completed. Okay, next we are going to have this plan. So we are having actually short plans like you have seen on brilliant.org. Like there is a short lesson of 3 to 4 questions, and then you complete it. There is a summary, and then you move to the next lesson. So the same is happening here. So here's a content. For example, the next lesson start with this warm up. Which one does not belong, so they can pick the anyone they like. So we are using the something that can recall the concept and something that they can easily answer. So this is the question, and next take a minute to think about how you would finish measuring the area of these rectangle and that are partially tiled. So these are some figures, and they are supposed to find how they can find the area of this is rectangle using the partially filled tiles. And then when they are done with their thinking, they can have a button here there where they can click like I'm done with my thinking. So they can click, and they will have this describe and show how to use square tiles to measure the area of each rectangle. You can place square tiles on the handout where squares are already shown. You can also move the tiles if needed. So there are already some tiles are filled. It is just a similar activity, but in this lesson they are using rectangles, and to make it a little different, we are partially filling these things so they can also use these tiles, and they will make sense what is the area of this figure, right? For example, they can put them in a line, and they can see how many squares they can use, and they can find its area. Next, describe and show how you can the next is there are two different figures, so you can see how they can find its area. Or basically they are just moving these tiles and finding the area of these figures. Here there is some overlapping, so they have to decide whether I need to use 4 like this or I have to use 3 like these. So they can use and find its area as well. So then they have to describe how to use squares to find area of any rectangle. So they can describe, because they have been doing this for long, that like we are filling without gaps and without overlapping, and then we are counting the number of squares, right? Then there's certain questions I think it will be difficult for a student to answer, so we can add the voice note with the answer so that they can just sort of summarizing, right, all this activity. We just found that the area of rectangle and learned that we can cover the rectangle with the square tiles. The tiles cannot have gaps or overlaps. The same idea are important with any flat figure. Area is the number of square that it takes to cover a flat figure without gaps or overlaps. So this is sort of learning and instruction, so that they keep on summarizing. In classroom it happens we ask a student to come up with these summarizations, but when we are working virtually, so after asking from a student we will give a formal summary like this. Okay, then the next activity here, what do you notice, what do you wonder? There are ways that we can use to represent rectangle with 12 square units. Now, like since now they were using square tiles, now we are making connection like how the grid is similar to the tiles we are filling. So they can see how they are similar, and they can wonder something about. Right. Now it is a task again. Draw a rectangle with an area of 8 square units on the grid. So it is like they will they sorry they are making the shapes here like they use GeoGebra or anything. Let me show you how it works. Okay, like this they are having like the grid which was present on the slide I was showing to you, and they can use like this. They can draw anything, and they are supposed to draw something which is of 8 square units. So they can do any of that activity, and they can also adjust, and they can delete all of they can show different colors, so they can do all of this stuff there. Okay, so this interaction will be there. So they will do this activity, and after they are done, they will submit, and the right answer will be prompt. If the answer is wrong, they can be guided about what wrong, what mistake they are making, and then we can adjust it. They can adjust it. Okay, create a rectangle that would fit in each group. Okay, this is, oh, sorry, I just flipped two slides together. Okay, so after that, there is something, sort the cards into category of your choice. Be prepared to explain your category. So for example, if we are providing them some cards, and they can group them any of two categories or more than two categories if they want to. And the criteria could be any they like. For example, they can categorize them using the area. They can categorize them using the length, the same length. They can categorize them using the width, the same width. They can categorize them using the perimeter. So they can do whatever category they want to make, and they will just sort these cards. So any of the category they have made, so the categories will appear in the next slide, and they will be asked to create different rectangles here using the same approach I have just showed to you. And they will create rectangles for each of the category. For example, if they have made two categories, so they will make two rectangles that fits with the each category, and then computer will check whether it fits with that same category, and it can answer them, so they can submit. So next, let's share the rectangle you created for each category. Share how you counted to find the area of each rectangle. So after they are done with creating these rectangles, we can ask them to write the areas of each of the rectangle, right? So this could be done that way. And then again, there is a summary of today's lesson. So this is again a short lesson, and this is a sort of assessment of these this lesson. Like for example, this is a shape, and we are providing this shape, and they are supposed to answer the area of, for example, Andrew says this rectangle has an area of 23 squares because it's covered it with 23 squares like this. So do you agree or do you don't agree? Why don't you agree? They can answer it like this. And after they are done with their answer, so they can do a proper adjustment to check whether what is the right answer, right? They can first, when the question is appeared, so they can move these tiles. But when they are done with their answers, so there's a prompt you can check. So then they can arrange them properly, and let's see how many squares are actually required. So this is what they can, then they can easily do this.